Hey, what is up, guys, and welcome back to the FCS Football channel. And today we are back with another match preview. Today it will be Manchester United versus Manchester City in the Premier League. It's obviously the big one, the Manchester Derby. Occasions don't get much bigger than this for Manchester United. Obviously, like I keep saying, against our Manchester rivals, our noisy neighbours, so on and so forth. Now, of course, the game is tomorrow, so we will have a watch along. Link to that should be in the description down below. It is beautiful. So yeah, there in the description below, you will see the link to that watch along. So please feel free to go click on that, turn the notification on for that live stream. So when we go live, which should be about 12 o'clock tomorrow, you will be notified. And of course, kickoff is at 12:30, so it is the early kickoff tonight. So again, please do tune in for that. Getting into the preview, this is where both teams sit in the Premier League table as of right now. So obviously, we do have Aston Villa. They're playing, is it Leeds, I want to say? Let's find out. Aston Villa are playing Leeds. So Aston Villa are playing Leeds right now, or they're just about to get kicked off. So obviously, this won't be exactly how the table will look come the game tomorrow. But as of right now, this is how it stands, which is obviously Manchester City second in the league. We're not used to seeing Man City second in the league, are we? We're used to seeing them top of the table over the last 5 or so years. But it is them in second with Arsenal in top. And it's only 2 places below and 4 points below where we find ourselves, Manchester United, in 4th. Meaning, if we did win against Manchester City tomorrow morning, is it morning? Tomorrow afternoon, we'll say, we will go a point below them with the same amount of games played. So it's a huge opportunity for Manchester United to not only beat Manchester City at Old Trafford, but also to kind of get with them in the league. I mean, especially given the terrible starts of the season that we had, all the criticism and the amount of slating that really the club received and Erik ten Hag received after the defeat to Brighton, the defeat to Brentford. To say we are now 4 points off of Manchester City with 17 games played, I think that's really good. And the fact we can make it 1 point off of them, I think that's really impressive. And it shows that how far we've come kind of since the start of the season and those 2 poor results. And I think you look at some of the results that we have got. Newcastle. I always go back to that Newcastle game. We should have won that game. Fred's missed an open goal. Rashford's missed a sitter in that game. We win that game, we're a point behind them. No, sorry, we're 2 points behind them. And we're in third outright. So I think Manchester United should be very happy with our league position, and we are very close with City, and we need to make the game feel like that. Obviously, last time we played City, it didn't quite feel like that, did it? We got absolutely smashed 6-3. Absolutely smashed. It wasn't really close. That first half was dreadful. 4-0 down going into half-time at the Etihad. That's probably the worst. We were probably the worst team that turned up to the Etihad in that game. That first half was probably the worst team they've played all season. Like, we were dreadful. And they took the piss. And they took the piss for fun. Like, they played with so much ease. And they just tore us apart. And they deserved all 6 of their goals, really. Obviously, the second half came. Technically, we won the second half. 3-2. After Anthony Martial came on and said, you know what, I'm not taking this shit. Scored twice, obviously in the 84th and 91st minute. But we know how what Man City can do to a team, and that's the proof, all the proof you need. Man City are a good team, and if we do let them control the game, we do let them dominate the proceedings, they will put us to the sword and they will beat us and beat us convincingly. And I think I've said this so often over the last few years, and I feel like in that game again, you can see how early Foden scored in the 8th minute. We kind of always fall away from it, but in a big game, for me, it's not about winning the game early. Because what you do by trying to win the game early, a lot of the time, is you lose the game early. Because you overcommit when you don't need to. What we have to do in this sort of game is make sure by the 60th minute, we are still in the game. We are 0-0. Maybe we have a goal. Obviously, I'm not saying you go 5 at the back, you park the bus. Obviously not. But you make sure that you give away no silly goals. You do nothing stupid. You make sure of everything. No point trying some shitty flicks for no reason. Make sure when you've got the ball, you're good with it, you're solid in possession, and when we don't have the ball, we're hard to break down and we're hard to score against. And then come the 60th minute, then you can maybe start pushing a man forward and going for the game a little bit more. Maybe starting to potentially risk the overcommitting a few players for kind of that risk and reward. But in the second minute, you don't need to do that. Just make sure, come the 60th minute, you're in the game, and then you've got something to kind of either hold on to if by that point you are winning, or you got something to attack. Because as I said, in this game, 37 minutes into the game's gone already. 8 minutes in, you could argue the game might already be gone because we're too eager to try and win the game in the first 5 minutes or first 20 minutes when it's all about making sure come that 60th minute you're in the game still. I think that's the kind of the approach Manchester United have to take. And again, that's not, again, like I said before, that's not park the bus. That's not making go everyone back in defence. That's keeping the ball well, doing nothing silly, not overcommitting, just playing smart. And I think that's what some of the best teams in the world will do. They make sure that in a game which is always going to be a difficult game, and a game that you could argue they are the better team, and I think you can definitely make that point that Man City are better than us, that come the pivotal points of the game, you are still in it. And that should be the approach Manchester United take to win this game. Obviously, if you look at our last game, our last game was the Charlton game, in which we did lose, in which we did win 3-0. But of course, that is Charlton. You can't really take anything away from that game. It was a rotated squad, but we played well and we won it. A game more you'd look at is the 3-1 against Everton. And a game, again, we did dominate. Marcus Rashford was on fire. And again, really, we should have kept a clean sheet. And I do truly believe, had David De Gea not made that horrific mistake that led to the Conor Cody goal, that this game we could have won that game by more than just the 2 goals and scored more than the 3. Because that goal allowed Everton back into the game. And it kind of, like I went back, like I was just saying about about how United could approach this game. That's how Everton approached this game. They set up to make sure, come the 60th minute, they had something to lose. And we scored in the 4th minute, and they had to come out a little bit more. And kind of, they didn't have something they could lose at that point because they were already losing. So they weren't able to kind of sit back. But Conor Cody gets that goal, and they've got that opportunity to sit back again and just defend. And it wasn't until that Conor Cody goal until Everton really kind of started to come out again and try and get that equaliser and try and win the game. And obviously that's when, while Everton did create more chances at that point, we were able to bring on the players like Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford played. We were able to bring on subs and use the squad to ensure A, we get the win, and B, create more chances. And we got better opportunities when they were going for it because they've got less bodies back to try and make tackles and win the ball back, essentially. So, really, the approach Everton took in that game is the approach we should be taking in this game. And we saw how kind of effective it can be for a team who are much worse than we are against a team that is much better than them. The difference in quality, essentially, between Man United and Man City is less than the quality difference between Man United and Everton. So if Everton can do it effectively, we should be able to do it effectively and kind of produce a bit more quality as well. Moving on into team news. So Man City are essentially a fully fit squad. They've got a couple players out in John Stones and Ruben Diaz. Ruben Diaz is out with a thigh injury. John Stones is out. I couldn't quite find out why he was out, so I haven't been able to put down the reason for his absence on this, but he is out. When it comes to formations and systems, it's a weird one because Pep Guardiola in recent weeks has messed around with formations and systems. Against Manchester City, for example, he kind of played against Chelsea. Sorry, Man City kind of played a 3-2-4-1. Yeah. So theoretically, we could see that again today. But I imagine it will be a 4-3-3. Ederson in goal. Are probably a back four of Cancelo, Akanji, Laporte, and Ake. I'm going to say maybe Kyle Walker comes in at right back, and Cancelo goes to left back. Then a midfield three of Rodri, De Bruyne, and either Bernardo Silva or Gundogan, with then a front three of Erling Haaland, and then one of Foden, Bernardo Silva, or Grealish on the flanks. We know Man City are so good. They're second in the league for a reason. They are considered one of the best teams in the world for a reason, and that's because they are just so good. They pass the ball around with so much quality. It's so hard to get the ball off of them, let alone to kind of sustain it because of how good their pressing is. Their pressing trigger's unbelievable, and when you've got a midfielder, number 6 like Rodri in there as well, even if you manage to get bypass their forwards and their first kind of phase of press, Rodri's just there and goes, thank you very much, I'll take that. Man City are such a well-oiled machine. It's hard to beat them. But we everyone knows that, and I mean that's kind of what's kind of exciting about this game is we get to see Erik ten Hag try and kind of do what most teams haven't done this season, and beat this Manchester City team and go toe to toe with them. It'll be interesting to see if we do decide to do that, or whether or not we will kind of sit back and try and defend. When it comes to our team news, so we have got 4 players. Well, 3 players are almost certainly out. Jadon Sancho, he has been training. Potentially, he could be in the squad. But obviously, we know he hasn't been back in training for massively long. So he's kind of touch and go. Dalot and Donny van de Beek are definitely out. Dallow's got a thigh injury, and Donny van de Beek is out for the season with that knee injury, which he picked up against Everton, Bournemouth, something like that. I can't remember exactly the game. I think it was Everton. But yeah, so Donny van de Beek is definitely out for that game. Let me find out. Against Bournemouth. Look at that. That is awful, isn't it? So yeah, so because of that injury, essentially, Donny van de Beek does miss out and will miss out for the rest of the season. So that could be his Manchester United career over, unfortunately. A player that signed, that had so much potential, and we had so much backing. Everyone was so excited when Donny van de Beek signed for Manchester United back in 2021. Not quite worked out for him, and looks like his career at United might be finished, as I said. And then you got Anthony Martial. He picked up a bit of a leg injury apparently. That's why he missed the Charlton game. But he has been in training, so he looks like he will be. It'll be touch and go whether or not he will be available today. Dalot was in training, but Erik ten Hag has already said he ain't going to be playing. So for a bit of fun, because it's a big game, and I've seen these going around on Twitter all week about combined 11s, I have decided to do my own combined 11 for between Manchester United and Manchester City, and this is it. So Ederson starts in goal for me. I like David De Gea. Ederson is just a more round, kind of modern keeper. The things Ederson can do with his feet is absolutely unbelievable. So for me, Ederson in goal. Cancelo takes right back quite easily. Dalot's good. Wan-Bissaka's good. Cancelo's better. It quite easily goes Cancelo, Walker, Dalot, Wan-Bissaka, or Wan-Bissaka, Dalot, whichever way you want to see those two. But Cancelo and Walker are quite easily number 1 and number 2, and it's not really close. Now, when I've been doing this, I did want to pick plays that only plays that are fit. So potentially a John Stones or a Ruben Diaz could have gone into this to the centre back spots, but given that both of these players are missing for Manchester City in this game, I have gone for Rafael Varane and Lisandro Martinez. I think those two are better than Laporte. I think they're better than Akanji, and they're definitely better than Nathan Ake. So for me, those two go in to the centre backs. And for me, Luke Shaw is clearly the best left back in that out of the two. Cancelo, I think if you move him to left back and play him as a left back, he comes close. I think Luke Shaw's better. I think Luke Shaw is the best left back in the world. I do think he's definitely the best in the Premier League. Luke Shaw gets into the combined 11. At centre defensive midfield, it was a tough one. It could be Casemiro, it could be Rodri. I wouldn't argue either way, really. I've gone for Casemiro because I'm a Man United fan, and I've seen Casemiro dominate this year for Manchester United. Completely change how Manchester United play. Completely change Manchester United's fortunes. And I think you look at Man City, they had Rodri before. They had Fernandinho before Rodri, and they were absolutely fine. We had Matic before. We've had McTominay. We've had Fred. We've had so many players before Casemiro, and Casemiro is completely... He's been a massive difference maker. And because of that, I think his impact and his importance to United is probably bigger than Rodri's. Not taking anything away from Rodri, because Rodri has been brilliant. But I'm a Man United fan. I know how insane Casemiro has been, how megally important he is to how we play and to our success since he signed. And I'm totally biased. Casemiro gets in there over Rodri. De Bruyne and Bruno Fernandes as a midfield two in front of them. I think that goes without saying. Those two are just absolutely unbelievable together. Believable players. Would they work as a two? Maybe. I do think both of them have good work rate. Do get up and down very well. Whether or not they would work as a two, I don't know. I like to say they would, but it's very, very hard to say they would. But that being said, you wouldn't have said David Silva and Bernardo Silva would work with De Bruyne either, would you really? So it's one of those, really. And then that front line, I think it kind of picks itself. The right winger, you could put any one of Man City's wingers. Foden, Mahrez. You could even make the argument for Jack Grealish. I've gone for Riyad Mahrez. He's in great form at the moment. I love Riyad Mahrez. I think he's so good. Technically, like the way he can pluck a ball up the edge, just take on his man. You know where he's going, but you can't stop him. His ability to bend it into the top corner. He's just so good, Riyad Mahrez. I love him as a player. I wish United signed him from Leicester. Absolute baller. He goes into right wing. Marcus Rashford, at the moment, the level of performance from Marcus Rashford at the moment is so high. I don't think there's many teams in world football that wouldn't have him at the moment. I think he's definitely got his problems, and he's not. I still don't think he's the player that a lot of people make out he is. I've seen people saying he's better than Mbappe. He's not better than Mbappe, obviously, but I think he is playing at a really high level at the moment, and his output at the moment is fantastic. So I think he has to go at left wing. I think him and Luke Shaw also have a great connection and partnership, and arguably the best striker in the world, Erling Haaland, starts up top. With that bit of fun out of the way, what team do I think Erik ten Hag will actually use to try and combat Manchester City today? Well, I think it's going to be this. So I think he will kind of come away from that 4-2-3-1 and go with a 4-3-3. So with Diogo Dalot out, Wan-Bissaka has to come into it right back. But then I think the rest of the back four and goalkeeper will remain the same we've seen majority of this season, being De Gea, Varane, Lisandro Martinez and Luke Shaw. Casemiro, Eriksen and Fred as a midfield three. I think we want Fred's kind of dynamism in there, kind of that work rate, that pressure, the pressure that press, sorry. That's the word you'd probably want to use. The press from Fred is great. And I think when he's come on this season, he's actually played quite well alongside Casemiro. So I like to see that a little bit more. And I think that would just help to kind of nullify Man City a little bit more. That, of course, does mean we'd have seen Bruno Fernandes move out to the left-hand side. We've seen Bruno play on the wing a lot this season. Usually, he moves up to the right. But I mean, even under Ralf Rangnick, we saw Bruno Fernandes play on the left at times. I think Bruno Fernandes, I don't like seeing Bruno Fernandes on the wings, but if you're going to use him there, I think he can play off either side. So Bruno Fernandes off the left, which means Antony will start off the right, and I think Marcus Rashford then starts up top. If Martial was fully fit and there was no doubts about him and around him, I would say Erik ten Hag would trust him and would start him. But given that there are doubts about him, given that there are like he is potentially going to be not fully fit, I do think Erik ten Hag will kind of sit him out in a sense. Not for the entire game. I think we will see Martial come on in the game. I just don't think it will be straight away. I think he will just leave it until the second half, similarly to what we saw at the Etihad, and bring him on 60 minutes played, get Marcus off out to the left, potentially take either Fred or Casemiro off, and then say, right then, now we're going to go win this game. So that's what I think Erik ten Hag will do, and that's why I think it's set up to play on the counter-attack, and I think that with Rashford up top, through the centre, Bruno on the left, and Antony on the right, we can do that in the first half. My team, however, it's the same team as that we've played majority of this season. For me, I think we can go toe-to-toe with them. I think we can say we're better than you. I think especially, well, it's a tough one because there's no doubt about how good this Man City team is. But Man City, I think, depending on how they play and what they play, they are able to be get at. Now, I was going through it earlier. So how Manchester United play is, so we'll say this is the team. So we have our wingers kind of stay wide a lot of the time. And we'll have Eriksen push forward, and it becomes kind of a 2-3-5 or 2-3-4-1. Almost Christmas tree like if you're going from the front line back to the goalkeeper. So that is how Manchester United will play a lot. Against Chelsea, what we saw is we actually saw Rodri. So against Chelsea, what we actually saw is a 3-2-4-1 from Man City. So you'd have we'll leave it for that as that for now. So we had Kyle Walker kind of playing as a centre back. You had Cancelo, who will make Antony right now, playing in as a winger. You then had your centre backs, which is John Stones and Ake. You then had Rodri as Luke Shaw, Bernardo Silva as Casemiro, and then your front line, which are like De Bruyne, Gundogan, Foden, and Haaland. And what we saw is when they have the ball, this is how they were set up. Without the ball, you'd see Nathan Ake move out to left back. You see Rodri drop into centre back, and it becomes a back four. Bernardo Silva and Gundogan drop into midfield too, and it becomes almost like a 4-2-3-1, or you can make it into like a 4-4-2 or 4-1-1. 4-4-1-1. So that's kind of how Man City played in and out of possession. But because of how they did it, with Rodri dropping into as a centre-back, as opposed to what most people do when they kind of play that sort of formation, and have one of your wingers drop in so let's say Cancelo, instead of, if he played as a left back, he would become just the left back. But because they didn't do that, and they had their left centre back in the free when they've got the ball, move out to left back, and they had their DM drop in, at times when Man City were dominating the ball, when they were pressing high, you'd sometimes find Rodri would be way up here, near the penalty box. Because obviously, when you're Man City, when you're used to playing that number 6 role, that's what you do for Man City. You do get forward and you kind of leave the centre back. So when Chelsea counter-attacked, at times what they found themselves, so Kyle Walker would come out to right back, John Stones would come to right centre back. Nathan Ake would move back into left back. And you'd find this sort of space here where Rodri should be filling in will be left vacant because Rodri is still getting back from the edge of the box. Now, obviously, in this example, the gap is much bigger than it would actually be because, I mean, these professional footballers, they're not going to just be like, right, I must get back out to left back, hugging the touchline. But what it does show is there are gaps. And a couple of times, if Kai Havertz had a little bit more creativity about himself, there was a couple of times Aubameyang could have been played through. And there's a chance there for somebody, aka a Marcus Rashford, to get into that space and to score. And I think if Man City play the same way, this Manchester United team can beat them and can get a lot of success against them, going toe-to-toe. Obviously, I think this team also is comfortable in playing a little bit more defensive. We saw that in the likes when we played Arsenal. We went we kind of, in a sense, went toe-to-toe with them. Same with Liverpool. So I wouldn't be scared to play this starting lineup. But at the same time, I do think it's a little bit wise that if Martial is, depending on how fit Martial is, to bring Fred in. Now, just on the game before we end this watch-along preview, like I said, it's going to be a tough one. There's no easy games against Manchester City. Absolutely never. So, it's going to be tough, but I think we've shown we can go toe-to-toe with top teams. We can play against top teams and not have to kind of do what we did at times under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Go far up the back, try and defend for our lives. We can try and we can play, but at the same time while not being stupid. And I think that's the approach United should be taken tomorrow. And I think what a way to kind of start the weekend of football than with this Manchester derby. Obviously, I know Villa, Leeds are playing now, but the real weekend starts tomorrow with this Manchester derby. And what a way to start the weekend than playing and beating Manchester City, going 1 point off of them in the Premier League with 18 games played, nearly halfway through a season, being a point off of Man City. If anyone told you that we'd be in that situation after Brighton and Brentford, I'd laugh at you. I would have laughed at you. If anyone had told you we'd be in that situation, just even at the start of the season, I think most people would have laughed at you when they saw they've got Haaland, that we've not signed kind of any more massive, and look how far away ahead they were anyway. Yet here we are. I think so much progress has been made this season, and what an opportunity it is to go to essentially the halfway point of the season, a point off of Manchester City. I think there's enough there for these players to be up for this game and to just go at it, hammer and tong. Man City aren't undefeatable. They are beatable. It's about showing that we have the balls to go and do it and actually going to do it. Do I think we will? Well, that's a different question. Obviously, if you watched the Premier League preview from earlier, if you haven't, make sure you check that out after this stream has finished. You would know my prediction already for this game. I can see it going either way. If Man United win it, I won't be surprised. If Man City win it, I won't be surprised. But I do think I'm going to go for a draw. 1-1. And I'll take a draw, you know. I would take a draw against arguably one of, if not the best team in the world. Yes, they're not top of the league. Arsenal are, and Arsenal deserve to be top. But Man City are so good. They've got so many kind of weapons in their arsenal as well. I have no doubts that they are one of the top teams in world football. And in years gone by, I've not been this confident that we can get something in this sort of game. It's all about actually going to show that now. And I think we can. 1-1 draw. If we win the game, I won't be surprised. I will be celebrating though during the watch along and after the watch along if we do. But yeah, that is going to be it from me today. If you have enjoyed, please do hit that like button below and subscribe if you are new and you haven't already. I saw someone subscribe a little bit earlier to get that ticker going to 5:30. Also, as you can see by your screen, we will have a watch along tomorrow for the game. Kickoff is at 12:30, so we will start about half an hour earlier than that. So that will be about 12 o'clock, so midday tomorrow if you're from the UK. I don't know about other time zones. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one in a bit.